So have you noticed House Republicans are struggling to govern? And after barely avoiding a government shutdown, Speaker Mike Johnson now faces a fight to keep his job after Marjorie Taylor Greene, oh, we know her, introduced a motion to vacate yet again. According to Axios, Republicans are livid that all this chaos is threatening to cannibalize their House majority. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi told Politico the chaos is, quote, so unfortunate, adding that there's no respect for the integrity of the House, but it's a logical consequence of what Kevin McCarthy had to do to get elected Speaker. Joining us now, Democratic Congresswoman Sara Jacobs of California. She's a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Welcome, Congresswoman, to the table.
Thank you.
Congresswoman, so good to see you. I want to ask you to pick up where Nancy Pelosi left off, because this isn't just bad news for the Republican caucus as it relates to their politics. It's bad news for the American people. There are actual stakes here, whether you're talking about international aid, whether you're talking about the domestic affordability crisis, the fact that they can't get their ducks in order, that doesn't matter just for them. It matters for their constituents.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think everything that we've seen from the House Republicans this past year plus has been bad for the institution of Congress and has been bad for the country. I mean, every single time we've had to take a consequential vote to help the American people, it's been Democrats who have had to put up the votes to get it across the finish line, because Republicans have shown time and again that they cannot govern. And this chaos is not good for our country. It's not addressing the things that Americans need, like the cost of living, like making sure we're helping our allies and partners around the world. And frankly, we're starting to be a laughingstock to other countries as well.
You know, Congresswoman, Senator Patty Murray, as right before the bill, the $1.2 trillion appropriations bill finally made its way through the Senate, she asked, after all of that delay, how different ultimately was the outcome? And I thought that was such an interesting question. And Politico Playbook yesterday teased out even more and basically said, how different is it? Like, how different is it from Kevin McCarthy to now? It seems like the same things continue to happen. No matter who is in charge of the Republican caucus in the House, the inability to govern without working with Democrats is just a stark situation for them.
Well, yeah, look, they're down now to a one-person majority. They have many members of their caucus that are not going to go along with what the majority of their caucus wants, no matter who's in charge. And so, yes, they have to rely on us to get things done, not to mention that the Senate is in Democratic hands. The White House is in Democratic hands. This is divided government, and that means you can't get everything that you want. But there are many in the House Republican Conference who refuse to accept that reality, and therefore leaves it to whoever is in charge of them to have to work with us to get anything across the finish line.
Congresswoman, your work on the Foreign Affairs Committee has you looking not just at a lot of our domestic issues, but more globally as well. In light of the recent terrorist attack in Moscow, what is the latest that you've been hearing? Has there been some level of updating or briefing to members of the committee? How is that, situation right now being viewed by members of the House?
Yeah, we haven't yet gotten a full briefing on that attack, in large part because we were focused on getting the minibus passed, and then we're not here anymore in session for 2 weeks. I think that one of the things we were told very quickly was that we do not assess that this is the Ukrainians. And then as we saw, ISIS Khorasan came out and took credit for it. And I think that's largely in line with what the United States believes to be what happened. But I don't think it changes anything in regards to the fact that we need to pass assistance to Ukraine immediately. This was a terrible, tragic event in Moscow, and the Russians are doing terrible things in Ukraine, and it is up to us to make sure that we are helping our partners there and standing up for democracy around the world.
Congressman, I'm sorry, there was a detail in the recent package that you all were able to pass. This is from NBC News. Although the $1.2 trillion 1,000-page package does not explicitly mention barring pride flags from flying at U.S. embassies, its text embraces a Republican-led effort to prohibit the display of the LGBTQ pride flag at government buildings. You have the White House spokesperson telling NBC that the administration fought against the inclusion of this policy. I ask about it because it's not just flags, right? It is about values of respect, of inclusion, and a desire to chip away from that, not just here at home. We've watched it play out here at home, but also for America as a leader on the world stage. I believe you were a member of the LGBTQ plus caucus in the House of Representatives. I understand that there are, things like this that get slipped into what are essentially mini omnibuses. But I just want to underscore, it's not just about the flag, right? It's about everything that flag represents.
That's absolutely right. Look, I think, Alicia, my youngest sibling is trans and my middle sibling is gender nonconforming. So these are things that are deeply personal to me. And when I'm traveling around the world, it's so important when we're talking to young people, when we're talking to the LGBTQ plus community in all these other countries, that when they look to the United States, they see freedom, and that includes freedom to be who you are, regardless of who you love or how you identify. And frankly, I think it's shameful that Republicans put this in and used the fact that we had to avoid a government shutdown to get this thing through that is going to harm so many people around the world and erode our standing as a defender of human rights.
Congresswoman, yesterday we had the ranking member of your committee, Congressman Meeks, on, and Michael really got into the details with him on what is happening in Haiti and the United States government's response, because, it is a harrowing situation. And the ranking member talked about the fact that, the Kenyans could be coming in, but there needs to be appropriations money from Congress to do that. You talked about the war in Ukraine, Russia's war in Ukraine. Where do we stand on funds for Haiti, for Ukraine, for Taiwan, frankly, for Israel, but also humanitarian aid in Gaza? Because in that minibus that Alicia just talked about, UNRWA funding, which is the organization that primarily does the humanitarian aid support in the Gaza Strip, that funding was restricted, basically defunded.
Yeah, look, the UNRWA funding, the fact that Republicans insisted on us not being allowed to give them funding as part of this package is, to me, unconscionable. We have people starving and dying. Now, we will still be able to give assistance to World Food Program, to UNICEF, to other organizations. So this is not a total cutoff of all U.S. funding to people in Gaza. But there's nothing that can replace the kind of scale and infrastructure that UNRWA has in Gaza, and who have been able to work in really difficult circumstances like this before. Now, I think we need to pass the full comprehensive security supplemental that passed the Senate. The Senate is not known for acting quickly, so the idea of doing anything besides what they've already passed, to me, doesn't make any sense. And I also believe that keeping it all together is the only way we're going to get more humanitarian assistance through.
Can I, before we let you go, Congresswoman, just follow up on the point you just made about UNRWA? Could you identify, or was there any communication from Republicans why they wanted to gut that funding, that humanitarian funding? Was it just because it's the UN, or was there something more substantive, which I'm curious?
So, look, I think we all saw the allegations by the Israeli government that there were UNRWA employees who were involved in the October 7th attack. The U.S. has suspended assistance to UNRWA as a result of that. The UN is doing an investigation. We are all waiting to see the results of that internal investigation. I think, if it's true, which it looks likely, then those employees should be terminated, and there should be increased vetting as needed for UNRWA employees. But that doesn't mean we should punish the entire Palestinian population in Gaza because a few people who work at an organization were part of something really horrible. And I think that's a key part of international humanitarian law, right? We don't punish whole populations of civilians because of what some actors do. And frankly, that has been something that I think we have to keep emphasizing when it comes to this conflict.
Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs, thank you so much for being with us today and coming in. Good to see you.